Today we will be utilizing a bare metal Vultr instance to create a beautiful Hyper-V server. So let's go ahead and scroll down, select New York. From here you are going to select Ubuntu 2104 and select that $725 a month server if you can afford that. Now you do get a lot of specs here, 256 gigs of RAM, 10 terabytes of bandwidth, 25 gigabits per second Ethernet, 24 cores, 48 threads at 2.9 gigahertz, as well as NVMe. You get two of those at 1920 gigs, and SSD you get two at 480 gigs. So we're just going to select to not have RAID. We're going to do disks formatted and mounted. Then we will be enabling Hyper-V. Scroll down, and we are going to assign it well, we don't have to assign an IP, it'll just automatically get one, but then we also will want to give the server a host name, so I'm going to do that. So for me, I'm just going to give it fly.north.com and deploy now. That will take maybe about 5 minutes, between 5 to 10 minutes on average, I've noticed, and your server will be ready to go. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into that now. So first things first, we're just going to copy the IP address, paste it into PuTTY, and select yes to allow that. Then we will copy the password and go back to PuTTY and do root and right click to paste enter. That's going to get us logged into our machine. So at this point, I am just going to type apt update. I'm not going to upgrade anything because we're not going to be on this machine for too incredibly long, but I will definitely be getting the Windows ISO for Hyper-V. So here you can see we are currently downloading that Hyper-V ISO. And in just a second, all we're going to do is type MV space 1 tab, and we're just going to name this Win ISO. So from here, we need to do DFH to find, let's see, do we want to install on the NVMe? Because we could install on here, again, if we wanted to do it that method. It's totally up to you, but I personally am not going to do it that way. I'm not going to install using the whole entire VMware product, because that's going to just take extra time, especially when we know that we have this SDB. So more than likely, we probably have an SDA. And so we can format that and get that ready, get that all prepared to burn the ISO. So let's just go ahead and confirm this, though, by doing ls dev, and then we can also grep out SD. So you can see we have SDA, SDB, and SDB1. What that means is that SDA is ready for us to work on. So I am just going to install some utilities right here to get WoW USB working. So I'm going to do yes. And then I'm going to wget that. I'm going to install it. And then I'm going to install Wim tools as well, because that will be useful to have. And if I do this, it's going to yell at us because the file system is active, so it's busy. But what we can do is change this to SDA, because we saw that was available. And here you can see we are already copying the Hyper-V installation media to that SSD, the first drive. So yeah. Anyway, once this is done, we're just going to reboot and go into the console right here. So it's going to be important to go into the console. So as soon as it's done, which it is, we can just type the reboot command, hit enter, and click OK. Now we need to pop the console open And this is going to be an important part because we will be editing the BIOS because we want to enable UEFI because that's going to allow us to install it that way. So once we get along here to the setup area, we will get the Dell EMC BIOS, and we should just be able to hit F2 to enter setup. I'm going to pause until it gets to that point. Here you can see we're booting. It's going to be important to smash that F2 key because F2 is going to enter us into the BIOS setup. Okay, F2, 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 enter, F2, enter, yes. So we should boot up any second to the setup. It may take a second here. Yep, entering system setup. So here is system BIOS. We definitely want to go into system BIOS, and we want to go into boot settings. And for boot mode, it's got BIOS or UEFI. We want UEFI. And we should be able to do that. So yeah, that looks good to me. We are just going to, yeah, we're going to do that then. Go back out and let's check NVMe settings. So this is all good. That's really all that we needed to do is change that boot setting to UEFI because that's going to allow us to, to do it that way. But anyways, let's go ahead and finish. And it's going to ask us, do you want to save the changes? Yes, we do. So we've saved the changes. It's going to reboot. And you'll notice, let's go into device settings. So here's our NVMe. Can view the physical device properties. Yeah, so that's good. This is all good. Really, we don't need to do anything in here. We're good to just finish and get out of here. Are you sure you want to exit and reboot? Yes. So at this point, we just want to get into the boot menu. To get into the boot menu, if I recall correctly, I want to say it's F10. But it could be F12. I guess we will find out shortly. I know in some BIOS or in some BIOS options, you got to smash the delete key to get into some areas. Okay, so any second we should see the boot menu. So it's going to be like F10 or F12 maybe. Okay, it's F11 actually. So F11 was it. We hit F11, enter boot manager. Okay, let's do the one-shot UEFI boot menu, I guess. Okay, so very surprisingly, that actually worked. I was honestly getting a little bit nervous that was not going to work for a second, but that worked, and it somehow just continued right on. And now we can next. We might have to tab down and hit spacebar and then do install now. Go ahead and hit the spacebar on that check and tab and hit spacebar to next. We're going to do custom, so go ahead and just space onto that. And here we can see these different drives here. I am going to, this one is showing as primary, right? I'm going to delete that. So just go ahead and use the tab keys to delete that. Okay. And then I am going to go back down. So these are good. So I'm going to go back down to that drive 3 with the unallocated space and hit new and just go ahead and hit apply. It's going to say to ensure that all Windows features work correctly, Windows might create additional partitions. Just go ahead and click OK. So now we're just going to use the down arrow keys. So yeah, we'll go ahead and select onto this primary drive 3 partition 4, and we'll just go ahead and tab down all the way to next, continue there. So we should be installing on NVMe right now directly from that SSD media. And you'll definitely notice here, we're already at like 90%, so it's going really fast. It's getting things ready, and you'll see just everything just turns into a check mark. Now we're just going to restart now, and it really should be good to go. I think I'm just going to let Windows lead the way, and it should work with the boot manager. We should not even have to do anything at this point. I'm just going to kind of sit back and wait until BIOS starts to get the system going. Okay, so far what it looks like is the server it did launch up, and it's very typical of Hyper-V. It will load up and it will boot, but then it will reboot again. So that process has happened as intended. That this is normal, this is good. Just let the server boot up and restart a couple times, and then Hyper-V will be on its way to just asking you to set creds. Okay, so the BIOS is rebooting up, and this is getting to the last step here in the process. And keep in mind too, this is part 1 of the video. There will be a part 2 of this video coming, and that's just going to show you how to actually set up the guest VMs inside of this host. This is just to get your server established, to get your host environment going, up and running, and it's doing it. So that's good. Yeah, just in a couple seconds here, we should be ready to be prompted for a password change on the Hyper-V host management system. Perfect. So that's what it looks like. It is currently booting up from NVMe, I do believe. Nice. So it's going to have us set the user's password for root, or I mean for administrator on Windows. Cool. I'm gonna click I was going to try to click, but the mouse gets all glitchy on IPMI. So let's just go ahead and first of all, just enable remote desktop, hit 7, and then we're going to hit Shift E for capital E, and then just hit 1, enter. That's going to enable secure remote desktop sessions. So just go ahead and OK. And from here, let's open up an RDP session connecting to this. But before we do that, we're going to exit the command line and just type in ipconfig, and that's just going to give us the IPv4 address. If you're lost in the mess, just pipe that to find string and search IPv4. Boom. So the IP address that you are looking for is going to be one of these guys, I believe. Let me just double check the control panel. Okay, so slightly heartbreaking news about our server. It looks like the networking configs are not good. So actually, let's go ahead and type sconfig to go back into the server configuration. So sconfig for server config, and then we are going to hit the 8 key, and we are going to configure the first let's configure the first adapter here, I guess. And let's go ahead and switch the IP address around. So go ahead and hit 1, and we are going to hit S for a static IP, because we have a static IP assigned to the server. And the IP we're going to type is just going to be this one right here. So go ahead and type 66.135.5.116. So 66.135.5.116. Hit enter. The subnet mask, we can leave that blank, to the default. The default gateway is going to be 66.135.5.254. So 66.135.5.254. And so we just got a static IP assigned to us. Step 2, we're going to set our own our DNS to Cloudflare and then also Google. So now if we go back out to the main menu by typing 4, and we hit 14 to go back to command line, we can now type ping-google.com, and you can see that it works. And now we should be able to RDP into our host now. Here you can see I'm connecting into RDP to manage the host. The username is going to be administrator, and we're just going to type in our password. It's going to ask us to verify assert. Click yes to continue, and we should now be inside of here, just as we wanted to be. So from here we could do PowerShell, and if we wanted to get Ubuntu installed as a guest VM on this, we could do that. Another useful thing is to be able to have the web control panel. So what I like to do is just make a temp directory, and I also like to turn off the progress preference, or I'd like to set it to silently continue. Otherwise it takes forever. And then we are just going to write out, let's go into temp to make sure we got that file. We did. That was instant. And then we could change that. We could have changed that port to something non-generic or something, I guess, abnormal to make it less noticed that we have, Windows Admin Center running. But I like to just do that. It's easy. It's very simple. This SSL certificate option, it generates one. Now, if we wanted to use Let's Encrypt, it is possible. That's going to be a different video. But this right now, at this point, we've already basically set up what we need to manage and control the system to set up VMs. All that we would need to do now is navigate to the IP address of our system. So we're just going to go ahead and grab this. We're going to grab this IP, copy it out, and we should be able to open up a new tab to navigate to the HTTPS. As you can see, as soon as you navigate to HTTPS in your server's IP, you're going to be asked to proceed unsafely. That's normal. Go ahead and type in the same creds that you set for your Windows account. And from there, it's going to initialize the admin center. That's good. We're going to connect into the system. And you'll notice that with NVMe and all of the RAM and the processing powers that we have, everything seems to go relatively smooth. The initial updates and all of the initial installs, it can take a minute to maneuver around, but it quickly gets to be quick enough to be able to utilize it as you want. So go ahead and just play around in here, and in a next video, we will show setting up the machines, or I should say the guest machines. So I'm just going to go ahead and install the updates though, and that is it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Peace.